Okay, we're going live. Let's hope this works. It's not Sunday. It is 2 o'clock though, but it's not Sunday. It's Tuesday. Congratulations on joining me on this Tuesday. I need you to tell me straight off if you can hear and see me okay, because this is an entirely different computer and an entirely different setup. So I've moved to a whole new room and I have a whole new... The laptop's not new. Everything is kind of the same, but I've moved everything to a different room. And I'm using an older Windows laptop instead of an Apple laptop because it runs quieter for a start. Let's hope a few people join in, which is good crack. A few is here already though. Jerry Wicklow's here. Let's see who's bored today. It's a good question. Afternoon, Bob and chat. Pat Nolan's here. Irish Foxhound's here. Alan Thomas is here. Jerry Wicklow. No rush, Bob. It's not as if we're going anywhere. True. Moya V has joined. All the same names. People at home. It's great, isn't it? James McBratney says all good sound and video first class. Great stuff. That. Thank you. I have a job to do in the garden. Dropped the secateurs on the other side of the wall. No way I get my hands ripped to shreds in the masses of thorns. It's all good. Sync is pretty good as well. Something is up with OBS on a Windows laptop. I had major problems yesterday. I was actually chatting to Marek Drives on Skype. We're trying to set up a Skype thing. It's working so far, I hope. We're going to try it today officially. And it synced up much better on a Windows PC than it did on Apple Macs. So it seemed to cause an awful lot of problems. Anyway, I gave you a video yesterday, which is the Mitsubishi L200 video. You all seem to like that. I had to shoot that twice, that video. That's so pain in my arse doing that. I had to change the entire setup twice because I brought my camera home, all as well, sitting down watching a video, and I clicked the thing, and then I formatted the bloody hard drive, or I formatted the little card inside it with all the stuff on it. So it was a pain in the ass. So they filmed the whole thing twice. So some of the stuff is filmed on one day, and some of the rest of the stuff filmed on another day. I have filmed a Passat outside, so that video is going up as well, probably this week, or maybe I'll leave it till next week for another review, because it'll be the last, more or less the last one, until the top fives. I nearly finished the Mad Max one, nearly finished the other James Bond one. So it's been a bit of an oddball sort of week so far. Very echoey, says Martio. Is it very echoey? This is a different room I'm operating. This is a different place entirely. We cleaned out this room. There's all my computer crap here behind me. And Haynes manuals. I have Haynes manuals there as well. Nissan Micro, Toyota Carinas, and that sort of stuff. So I can't have the echoes. The first time I tried it in here, my computer has let itself down completely. My big computer was sitting here beside me. I cleaned out the power supply yesterday, and I think I might have broke it entirely. So I can't help that. But we'll figure that out later on. Like I said, I'm working with Marek Drives on trying to get something done for both our channels while this is going on, and also working with a couple of other people as well on this, so we'll see. Very echoey. Let me just check, make sure there isn't a second mic operating in this thing, that I turn something on or up or something. Audio input, desktop mic, mic aux. Hold on, there might be a second one. Sometimes this thing turns on other mics. Is that better? Anyone tell me? That should be just the blue mic right in front of me, and that's it. Hi Bob, do you pay for, James McBratney, do you pay for diesel fuel in press cars? No. They come full, like a rental car. They come full. If you use it, obviously you pay to put more in. So if you've got something big, massive machine of a yoke, like a Mustang or something, and you eat the whole fuel on the way home, now it's your problem to put the rest in. Now, is that better? Yeah, Mark H says it appeared to be in fact a second microphone. What I think, see, it's the first time I've done streaming on this laptop, so it probably turned on its own internal mic as well, and so it should be back in for just one. Yes, there we go. Nice, we're back to normal. That's back to my blue mic. That's in front of me, my whatever it's called, Ice Blue or something it's called. Bob, what, working with Sod, aka Johnny from Fifth Gear? Yeah, great. I am, yes, hopefully. I got in touch with Johnny recently. I'm going to see if he wants to come on and do a live stream here as well. I'm going to save these for the Sunday service ones that are quite big. So Sunday service gets maybe 5,000 people watching it, 6,000 odd, something like that. So and over time it increases, and then on the podcast goes down a storm as well. It's sitting in the charts on like a 200 or a 20 position 20 in the UK chart. So that'll do me nicely. So hopefully I'll be able to get some nice guests on as well. Now if we can get it all worked out, I'm going to ask Johnny Smith to come on from Fifth Gear and his own channel, of course. Sniff Petrol, Sniff Petrol. Might see if he can come on as well. There's a few, because it's just it's a Skype chat essentially, and I'm going to broadcast it through YouTube. So it's like a chat show on Tinternet. See what happens. I will see if I can bring him on. Yeah. Now look, it's all down to these guys whether they actually want to do it or not. A lot of these guys are very media conscious as to what way that they talk to you on Twitter. No, Chris Harris blocked me on Twitter. I don't know why. God knows. Sure, people do mad things or they press the wrong buttons or whatever it is, but I wasn't following him anyway. It's not like I was actually interested in what he was doing. That sounds really mean, but I don't really follow a lot of car people unless I've met them. Journalists, because a lot of journalists follow you to get more information on you, and they try and swap details. But unless people actually, if they talk to me, if people at me, I'll tend to follow them because they've actually tried to interact with me. Whereas I don't really follow a lot of people who don't follow me. Just a couple of handful of really famous people who entertain me, like Darrow Breen or someone. I follow him, I think. But I don't really follow. I follow less than 800 or 900 people or something on Twitter. I don't really follow a big lot of people. Funny, Pat Nolan just said, did you see Pussy Galore passed away this week? And it was held for review by YouTube. Yes, Pat, I did see that. Honor Blackman, who played Pussy Galore in the Bond series, and she was definitely one of the prettiest and strongest Bond girls ever. So it's a shame she passed away. Yes, she's 94. I think she's 94, 95, something like that. She was quite old. So that's not very old, but it's very old for someone to live 94, 95 years on planet Earth. But I often think that people who do well money-wise tend to live longer, but they don't. Look at Boris Johnson in hospital with COVID-19. Sorry, no, I'm just not saying that out loud. That's terrible. I didn't get thrown out of anywhere. No, that's not true. New location. The location was, we cleaned out this room. This was like the crap room. Everybody has a sort of a crap room that they put things in, a storage room or some place to just keep firing stuff into. And this was our room, and there's actually a bed here beside me as well, and it's a wardrobe there behind me. But I had slowly turned it into a sort of a storage room, a bit of a laugh of a storage room, which is why those kind of shelves are back here and why this shelf is here. But you really couldn't use it for a whole lot else. So I put a desk in and tidied up this shelf here behind me so I can use it for stuff like jump leads and old radios and tape decks and stuff that I pulled out of cars over time. And that's all on that shelf there, along with an amp on the top of an electric guitar over there. And just put it together here so I could just have a room where I'm not really worried about having Sunday service stuff behind me. I will do the Sunday service thing from here. This stream seems to be working well. And weirdly, this kind of old laptop, it's got to be 2012, that laptop, is working fine. It's great. How old do you have to go to be on a press launch event? I've met very young people on press launches. The press launch, the local launch stuff doesn't really matter. But generally in Ireland, we have a sort of 25-year-old insurance. It's nothing to do with the car companies. Car companies give a car to anyone who would get a bit of influence on things. But the problem is insurance companies won't insure drivers to drive press cars under 25. So we have run into that a few times. A couple of people have got away with it. Ian Fitzpatrick, who is I can't think what you call it, but it's someone who does wine. They do wine selection for restaurants and things. There's a name for that. He was going to be a journalist for a while there, but he just couldn't get going. He was just too young. He just couldn't get all the cars, and he couldn't get a job at it. The trick is, lads, if you really want to do this job that I do, you have to get paid for it. That's the hardest part. The cars are irrelevant. You will be fed up with cars within 6 months. 100%. I'm telling you now, the car thing wears thin over time. There's a fear that you don't have a press car next week. There's a fear that I won't have enough press cars to do me through the month or whatever. The vast majority of journalists don't even have their own car. At the beginning of this crisis, we'd say, the amount of text messages going back and forward of press journalists who don't have a car and they thought they were going to lose their press cars during this. Do you know, it's just the car thing falls away over time. That's something you don't really get to grips with. Money, getting paid, being independent, being able to give your opinion on something. being able to look at your perspective and go, that car is wrong or that thing is right. Remember, you're talking about, I'm influencing a couple of million quid's worth of sales per year, one way or the other. Even if I don't do it very well, even if I don't make a big video, if I got 20,000 people to watch a video, that could be 5,000 cars. Now you're starting to get very serious amounts of money that's been moved around. So that's why car companies are quite precious about what journalist looks at what car and where they get it and who gets there first. And get an opinion out first. You look at some of the newspapers like the Irish Times or the Independent or whatever, they tend to get the press cars first, because if they like it, they'll influence 400, 500 sales or whatever it is in that one single publication, and then they give it to me later on because they know I won't like it. Some PRs are very clever. They know I won't like a car, so they give it to me late, so they know that my influence is less later on, because that's the way they operate. They're kind of weird. They can be very weird like that. Sommelier says Marek Drives. Marek Drives is in the chat. You should subscribe to his channel, by the way. It's very good. He does reviews in English and Polish. I still don't know how to do that. Still not sure how that works. I could not do it in 2 languages. I'm not that for sure. I'm lucky to be able to do it in 1 language. I'm lucky to be able to speak English, for God's sake, let alone being able to do it in Polish as well. Hopefully, if everything gets back to normal at some point, I will pop over to Poland and we will film something over there together, and maybe the return journey too. But yeah, go over to subscribe to Marek Drives while you're there. But a sommelier is what you do call a person who's into wines and knows what they're doing. Johnny Dub says, lads, what's the story? Deadly weather. Tis deadly weather. I was out running and everything earlier on. It's great. Hope the time off leads to everyone's cars polished up to the last and loads of long-term car projects getting done. I've not a long-term car project, really. I should do something long-term with the car, shouldn't I? I should buy something that's there out the front and just drives you mental and you have to look after it, But Moe AV with the press car thing. Press cars are hard to come by. And they're going to get really hard to come by at the end of this, I think. I noticed in the news that Volkswagen's woes on their cheat device is not going away. Now there's court cases in the UK happening about it as well, and it is going to become a big problem once the UK get a sniff of some money, and they do. They the journalists over there, or not just the journalists, but the general consensus over there, will try and get some money out of Volkswagen. Volkswagen could be spending a lot of money very, very quickly. You could make a nice man cave for yourself there, says sound is good too, Sarah Grotcher. I'm going to put some sound dead pads up on the wall because I have to do the radio Midlands 103 on Thursday, but obviously I'm doing it remotely, so I'm setting up a studio, a sound dead studio. So what I want to do is I'm going to put some stuff on the wall behind to make the sound deaden in here. If you ever want to improve your mic audio at any point, deaden the sound in a room. That's really all you have to do. Some of the stuff you hear me do on voiceovers, or some of the words you hear me throwing at the end of it, is actually recorded on my phone. Some of the podcasts, if you listen to the podcast version of the Sunday service, the intro to that sometimes is recorded on my phone with a quilt over my head. Then it just deadens the whole sound and makes it sound rich straight away. Bob says front 242. Bob is the Ghibli, and he goes, don't know, never driven a Ghibli, couldn't tell you. It probably is. Generally, the more expensive a car is, the worse the person who drives it. I know that may sound really bad, but if you look at most Ferrari drivers or McLaren drivers, it's celebrity type people, influencers out there, celebrity kind of people. They're not real drivers. The ones who really drive cars actually drive more ordinary things, more standard yokes. They're much more likely to drive an RS Audi or something, or a Mercedes AMG than go off and buy a Ferrari. So anything like a Ghibli or any of those kind of cars, hardly anyone. I mean, they make 4 or 5 cars a year, I think. Bob, what's your drink of choice? Wine. I probably should have said tea or coffee or water or something up front, but I think you mean alcoholic drink, so it's wine at night time. I would drink red wine till I slowly fill up from my ankles. But I do go off it. Every once in a while I do take a break completely from it. Sometimes I go off it entirely and don't drink for like 2-3 weeks. I don't binge, so I don't go out and drink a whole bottle of wine all on my lonesome on a Tuesday or something like that. Doesn't happen. We don't really go out all that much from the house, to be honest. So if you don't find yourself out there in a big circle of friends, neither do I. I mean, I might have 50, 49, 48,000 followers on Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is, but I don't really go out or do anything. How are you today, says the iPad Kid 1000. I am fine. Just came in from a run. I did Joe Wicks's workout this morning, and when I came back from that, I got some food and then went out for a run. Did 5k in about a half an hour, and I feel brilliant, and I mean brilliant. But I will hit a wall later on this evening and fall into a coma and not be able to get anything done whatsoever. To those people who won the Sunday service competition, by the way, when the post office opens and everything gets back to normal and social distancing isn't quite as severe, I'll post everything to you, because I have to go with packages to the post office. So it's not quite straightforward just wandering into the post office and queuing up with everybody else. You got a queue to get into the post office. So if you want to collect, I'll meet you. If you want to come to Portlaoise, if you're in Ireland, you want to come to Portlaoise, I'll meet you somewhere here in Portlaoise and I'll give you whatever it is you're after. But I think actually the book winner is from the UK, so he can't come anyway. We're live, and Jeremy Clarkson tweeted, but he didn't tweet at me. Nobody on the road, nobody on the beach. I feel it in the air. The summer's out of reach. Empty lake, empty streets. The sun goes down alone. Name that song. He tweeted that. I didn't tweet that. I'm just reading it out. Name the song. Go for it. Nobody on the road. Nobody on the beach. I can hear it in my head. I feel it in the air. The summer's out of reach. Empty lake, empty streets. The sun goes down alone. Name it. See how you get on. Hi Bob, what exactly is Automotive Team and how does it work, says James McBratney. You seem to know an awful lot, James McBratney. Automotive Team is a facilitator, so they work with the brands to deliver cars to us, or pick them up from there. So they work with certain brands. They're a private company though, so they're not a car company in any way. They just work on a Monday. There's a lot of people turn up and pick up cars and disappear out of it. So it's just they clean them and mind them and look after them, wash them and get them ready and hoover them out and sterilise them and give them to me. Give me all of the cars. Brian, want a project? Money Pit? A Ford Capri. You're dead right. Capris are fantastic looking, rear wheel drive, the professionals on telly and everything. Absolutely brilliant car, but dear God, they require a huge amount of work if something goes wrong. The engines aren't too bad actually. Most of the engines are actually okay. Generally speaking, older classic cars, the bigger the engine, the more reliable it's going to be. So if you can find like any car, 3 litre, 4 litre, 5 litre, 7 litre V8, whatever it is, those cars tend to be really easy to work on and don't tend to go very far wrong. It's smaller engined cars that tend to be broke because they can't put up the long-term yoke. By the way, good recommendation. I did actually watch Ford versus Ferrari the other night. It's a bit pantomime-y, I have to say, but the noises of the engines were amazing. But the film itself is a little bit pantomime. I think there's a little bit too much. It's slightly overacted in places, and there's a bit too much going on. Your man from Ford is like the big me that comes down and does everything wrong. It's pleasing in that respect, but it's kind of close to being nearly a comedy, I think, in some places. But it's still a bloody good movie. Really enjoyed it. Proper petrolhead stuff. Find it wherever you live. I'm sure it's available on various streaming services. Ford versus Ferrari. I don't know what it did in the cinema or whatever, but it was actually pretty good. Some of the cars in it are amazing. Amazing, the best, in the best possible way. Bob letting on he lives in a gigantic house. This is the front bedroom. Are you kidding? This is a 3-bedroom semi-detached house. I don't live in a gigantic house at all. I wish. No, I don't actually. I like it here. I like what I have. I have more than most, so I'm okay with that. A lot of people out there don't have an apartment, don't have a house, don't have anything, and will find it very, very difficult to try and get onto that ladder and try and get themselves moving. You can do it for sure. We struggled through. We bought this at the height of the market. We paid way more than we're supposed to pay for this house, but it's ours and it's okay, and it's fine. We just have to find space in it the whole time. It's one of those, because we've 2 kids, they sleep in the same room, they love it. They don't want to move out of the room, get their own room or anything, and we have another room. So this is just the box room, as it would have been called when I was a kid. In my old house in Kildare Town, I used to sleep in the box room, and it was tiny. I mean, you'd fit a bed which was beside the door, so the door opened and the bed was there beside it. It was really, really small. Mark Daly says, I have 5 project cars on the go and only 1 or 2 drive. Don't do it. It's black hole of money and happiness. I love it. Robert Mulhall says, Bob, any views on Octavia RS? The new one on the way, I think it is. Any of the RSs are very good. Now, I would have some reservations on whether you should pay the excess to get an RS versus just getting a standard diesel. You can have a bit of fun in any standard petrol, 1.4 TSI, 1.5 TSI, the petrols, the diesels. You can have fun in any one of those cars. If you want to go beyond that fun and have something that is really stands out in the crowd, then yes, of course, RS is going to do it for you. But whether you want to be able to spend that gulf of money between getting a petrol and getting an RS is quite a big jump. And whether you can justify that kind of money, not another thing entirely. Resurrect that Sierra, the Sierra from the competition. Yeah, I think that's fairly far beyond resurrection now, since the chassis was broken too. But it's a nice car, I have to say. The old Sierras were great cars. My brother owned a Sierra once upon a time as well, a 1.6. He actually mentioned it on Facebook. Now the QR project cars. I've been affected with prophetic visions of suffering Hayabusa engine into a Cinquecento. Oh my god, Cinquecento! What a car! That's an amazing yoke. They're amazing little cars. So much things you could get into the older Italian cars with no safety. When you think of it, how much you could fit into that. Brilliant. Arse About Face says, yo Bob, what was the very worst car you've ever test drove? Nissan Tida and a SsangYong Rodius, and possibly that very modern Hyundai whatever it's called, the forgettable Hyundai electric car, the one recently. I did a recent video on that one, mind you. But really, Nissan Tida still fills me full of hatred as I pass by. If I was out for a run, there's one actually parked on my run as I go by, and literally internally I scream when I see it. It is an offensive car, to say the least. It's a Nissan Tida. But SsangYong Rodius has actually got good sides to it. SsangYong Rodius is a funny, weird, big car. You can fit a lot of things in a Rodius, but it looks horrendous and it drives like a barge. Days of Summer, Boys of Summer, Summer of 69. Some people say, oh, one of you is wrong, lotsies are ready. Don Henley, Boys of Summer is correct. That is exactly the words from that song. I can still hear it playing in my head. It's one of my favourite songs in summer. Don Henley, Days of Summer, Boys of Summer. Looking good, Bob. Sound and video all in sync too. You see, not bad. I put a little light over it there. I've got the sun coming in from that side, so it looks like you get a little separation from the back. So it looks a little blurry, I think. I don't know. Never done it from here before. I have two phones. I'm ready for anything here. I have a whole other computer sitting over there which is falling apart. I broke it. I tried to clean out the power supply and I broke the bloody thing. I have a torch in case things go really badly wrong. There's a really good torch actually this year. I can't think what it's called now. Nikron. It's got a little head that changes shape, so you can do that. So you can get into funny angles. It's magnetized on one end as well, which is really handy. There's all kinds of things here. There's actually scrapbooks and stuff of years and years and years ago of me and Braveheart and all sorts of stuff there. Justin Nolan. Hi Bob, as I've moved further out from work, I'm sadly selling my Mazda RX-8. As fuel is costing much, not surprised it does gobble fuel and oil. But what would you recommend with a 5k budget that has the best MPG? For 5k, Justin, you're going to have to probably go petrol, unfortunately, to get anything even remotely modern. Diesels hold their value very well, so it's very hard to find a decent diesel at 5k. But you could buy something, one of the Germans, a Golf or something, would be very popular. Ford Focus, any of those cars do fairly good MPG. Just try and get the biggest engine you can afford. You know, there's probably going to be 1.6 petrols. You might find a 1.4 in that price range. It's going to be very high mileage, but petrol tends to be easier to service and look after yourself once you learn how to get once you learn how to do the servicing on your own. It's fairly straightforward. Try your best to buy something that has a history. That's the best. It doesn't matter what the history is. If the history's bad and you know it, that's okay. You know it's bad. You know what you're buying, right? If the history's really good, you also know what you're buying, so it's really good. But if you don't know any history, then you could be buying something. Could have anything wrong with it. God only knows. Any millions of things could be wrong with it, and especially if you don't know whoever owned it. Footy Ferrari, hi Bob, started binge watching some of your older videos. Notice how style has kind of changed over the years. Some great content even from the like of 8 years ago. I noticed a lot of comments coming on some of the really old stuff, some of the stuff that is 8, 9, 10 years old even at this stage. It's funny how the YouTube algorithm kind of funnels you into something and continues pushing you that way, which it's cool in its own sort of way. The style has to change. I don't believe a lot of channels came and went since I've been here. I suppose I wonder, like, I'll be one of the older channels. Like, YouTube is what, 12, 13 years old. I'm 10 years old. So I've seen a lot of channels that came and grew very quickly and then just disappeared off the radar over time, or they came and they grew nicely and they got some good content, but then they hit some sort of a problem, or a bill comes in, or they get sick, or they don't feel well, and it's all over, you know. It comes to a very quick end, and YouTube very, very quickly forgets about you. I don't upload to any other channels, but I actually have other channels that I log into to use to test features and do stuff within the YouTube system. And I notice those channels never get any subscribers because I don't put up any content. So there's never any action. It never serves those channels out to anybody. Whereas this one, I think sometimes the more content you force into it, the more it gives you back, the more it pushes people at you. So I only do these kind of streams things. The Sunday service started off as just some way of keeping in contact with everybody in a live sense, but now it's grown into a massive podcast thing that everybody wants to be on. So that's cool. But I do these live stream things. So we're all locked in. We're all caught. I know it's sunny today, but we're all locked in doing nothing. So we must be talking to one another. Like, Marty O says, I bought a Mazda RX-8 new in 2006. Fastest moving part was the fuel gauge. Absolutely brilliant to drive and super fast. It is, yeah. They were always classed as a 1.3, but it was depending on how you measured them. They were actually a 2 litre. When you actually measured them properly and get the horsepower and put it together, they were actually a 2 litre. So it was all a bit of a whiz some degree. But they're a brilliant car to drive. They're endlessly revving. The problem was, a rotary engine is what's in it. It was invented by a guy called Wankel, but a Wankel engine or rotary engine was in them. Rotary engine is kind of weird. It's like a triangle, a kind of an offset triangle that rotates around a circle. It's the most complicated and no one's ever really made it to work. Mazda gave it their best shot, and every few years come up with another one and they try and get some more done with it, but that's as far as they go with it. But we'll see if they ever make a comeback, because it was never very economic. It was very high CO2 and they broke down a lot. Footy Ferrari, did you get a haircut? I did get a haircut. I cut it myself. We stood in the backyard yesterday. I put it up on Twitter actually, and on Instagram. But we stood in the backyard yesterday, myself and the wife, and I did most of the cutting, and then she cut the back of it up there. Otherwise I would have had like a mohawk, because I can't see the back of it. But I cut all on the sides and just left the top pretty much alone. It's grand. Fine, it was easy. A wall, W-H-A-L, W-H-L-E, I can't remember how to pronounce it. Wall clippers. My wife bought me, when I had a beard, which some of the videos you see, when I was in America maybe 4 years ago, I actually had a beard, and she bought me as a present, she bought me a beard trimmer, but it actually is a hair cutter, but it had a beard attachment on it, so we still had the hair cutter. So managed to get a haircut yesterday. Anybody else, when this is over, I'm going to stop being a review guy on cars, and I'm going to start doing haircuts. That's what I'll do, haircuts. And open a channel on haircuts, you know, because you know all these barbers tend to end up trying to be car reviewers as well. Marty O said that the RX-8 used to cost him 70 quid a week in juice. I'm not surprised. Yeah, well, do you know, once upon a time 70 quid a week wasn't a lot to be spending on fuel. But if you go back a few years into pounds, I remember feeling bad about spending £20 a week in petrol. Like, that's not even €25 a week, because that's the price of fuel. Mark's reviews. Hi Bob, hope all is good. What's your reviews, Mark? I can't click your name, right? You can't do anything from here to check you out. What do you do? What's your review? TS. Hi Bob. Have you reviewed the Ioniq Hybrid 2019 model? Hybrid, no. Ioniq Electric, yes, was crap. Worst car I've driven in a decade was the electric one. Hybrid one probably has McPherson strut or something suspension on it, making it a nicer car to drive, because the electric one has a torsion beam on the back and it's rotten to drive. But the first generation Hyundai Ioniq is absolutely gorgeous. Love that car. fine, did exactly what I wanted to do, electric and hybrid, the whole lot. The current electric one has been cheapened in every possible way, and it's made of balls. Mark Eddy, I bought an ex-taxi Rodius with no history from 8 Polish guys who used to drive it over and back from Poland. There was ever a car to walk away from. Oh man, that must have been good crack. Especially if 8 lads are driving back to Poland in it on a regular occasion in a Rodius. You know, because you go as fast as you can across Germany. Mark's reviews. What do you think of the new Ford Puma? I've only driven it internationally. I was supposed to have it a couple of weeks ago for test, but obviously this happened. We're all locked down, so no test on it. But I've driven it internationally. Internationally, it was fine. Really clever things. Things other people didn't think about, which is really good. That kind of bin in the boot. I think they call it Mega Box or something in the boot. That's really good. That's a simple idea. You just open the boot and drop in the big muddy boots, and you can wash it out. You can actually just hose it down. It's got a hole in the bottom. It just lets the water back out the bottom of the car. Absolutely genius system. Very clever. Nice little engines. It drove very well. I was very happy driving around. I think we were in Spain. Somewhere, myself and Neil Briscoe were driving it, doing handbrake turns. Don't tell Ford. I was doing handbrake turns in a Ford Puma. It shouldn't be called a Puma. That was my only gripe with the whole car, actually. It could have been called your granny. You know, the Ford Granny. Whatever you want to call it. But calling it Puma gives it a history. And the Puma was not a small SUV. So anyway, it's like the people who used to come up with the names for cars have all died or just gone away or something. Cross 13 says the seals go on rotaries. Everything else goes with them. It's not just seals. But yeah, seals. Seals, oil consumption, it sucks in petrol sometimes into the oil. If you don't rev it enough, it cokes up. It starts to get a coking on the inside. You don't rev it enough. If you rev it too much, it starts to burn oil. It's like, oh my god. They're complicated, very complicated, and really only Mazda persisted with them, although everybody had a shot at rotary engines at one time or another. Even Audi stuck a rotary engine to things over time, but most of them give up very quickly because it costs a fortune to fix them. Niall McHugh, my final year project in college many years ago was the design of a rotary powered chainsaw. Fascinating engines, but that was big. Although you could make it smaller, I suppose. You could make the cylinder small enough to actually be some sort of chainsaw size, but I'd say it's like it'd be fairly large. Even like a 2-stroke engine on a chainsaw, which is quite light, is actually still pretty large when you look at them, especially when you look at some of the electric electric motor chainsaws that I've seen recently, which is pretty good. And actually a fella sent me a picture of an outboard motor for a little dinghy that is fully electric, completely silent, totally electric, and charges from solar, which was quite nice. Works well, obviously, for people who are on yachts. Wouldn't work now if you're charging here outside your house, wouldn't get much out of it. But it was very clever to see that. I know it's been around for a little while, but this one was very efficient, so you can actually rely on it. I mean, it'd be nothing worse than being a little motorboat and you're motoring back into dock and it runs out of batteries. Like, it'd be terrible. So this one was actually pretty reliable and seemed to do its job. Mike Burke, Bob, have you ever considered inviting a guest on the Sunday Service for the odd time? That's coming, yeah. Another car reviewer expert, or maybe mechanic, or the technical questions. Yeah, I am currently talking to a number of people. The one I think we're going to go for today, we're going to try and do something on it this week, is Marek Drives, who's there in the chat, which is I've open invitations to anyone. If you want to talk to famous people and you'd like them on the show, tweet them. The best thing to do. I'm going to ask Jeremy Clarkson and James May and Richard Hammond, and maybe they'll all say no, maybe none of them will even open their mouth, but everybody's stuck at home, and it's not like I'm coming around to your house to interview you or something. It's just a bleeding Skype call, right? So you can dispose of it. So but yes, I will have other people on, and I'm looking to try and get some really technical guys on as well, to do with EVs and to do with I need a balance. You need a balance of stuff. You can't just invite somebody on who's like, you know, everything is wonderful in the world. You need people who can actually put a bit of crack to it as well. So Only in, how's it going? New Year at the Flavin House. This is just a spare room that I have upstairs. It's easier because where I work from on a Sunday is fine, because normally on the Sunday there's no one really around the house, and I get downstairs in the kitchen and just do the Sunday service down there. So there's no one around. But mid of the week, we're all stuck in the house. I cleared out this room and it made a new Sunday service area. I'm going to run the Sunday service from here, I think. Very successful. Seems to be working fine on my laptop. Haircut reviewer, Mazda MX-5 in the pipeline. Another Mazda MX-5 in the pipeline. If there is, I hope to do it again in Romania. Last time I was in MX-5 was over in Romania. Drove it all across the mountains of Philip Nolan, a good friend of the channel here as well. We featured in his Irish Daily Mail there recently. Philip is a good guy. That was the last time I drove one, was over there. I've driven one back here as well. It's a great car, very collectible, very, all generations of it too, no matter which one it is. Mazda's very proud of that car. It's a shame they don't have the confidence of doing an electric one and a rotary engine one. I'd love to see that too, just for the sake of it. Like, wonder, will we still be in lockdown for 10-year anniversary of the channel? I don't know. That's June. I know my YouTube spidey sense was tingling. I hope not, because I want to do something. I want to make a few videos around the 10-year anniversary, plus to show you my first video, my first review video, which I don't think is online anymore. I think I removed some of the very older ones just because they weren't getting any hits, and they were actually damaging the kind of algorithm stuff. It was damaging the channel to have them there rather than actually, because there's over 800 videos on the channel. But there was that, and I want to have a live meetup of everybody, all the names I call out here every week, and we need to set a date for that. But I can set no dates until this COVID-19 thing pisses off. And that's the most important part at the moment, to get rid of that. Obviously, stay safe, stay in, wash your hands, all that sort of stuff. Unlike, what do you call him? Boris Johnson, who didn't obviously wash his hands enough, because he's in intensive care in the UK, which was a bit of a strange one to wake up this morning. Although he was the one who was going around shaking hands with all the people who had COVID-19 already. He is. You just look back over his haircut. Over his haircut. I've just seen haircut on the screen and read it out. Not unlike what do you call him? I have to tell you. Just reads out stuff as he sees it. Wonder will be. No, I did it one. Robin Mulhall, any further ideas on changing the layout? I can do nothing. I can't change anything because everything's closed. And the people I was working with on doing bits and pieces for future electric and replacing cars and the cars that they were going to get me and stuff, well, they're closed as well. So everybody's closed. Everybody's grinding to a halt. So I can't make plans on changing layons or doing anything else. I probably will get rid of the layon though this year. It's 14 years. I bought it brand new. My 2 kids were nearly born in it. It's an old family. I hate the idea of getting rid of it because it's totally reliable. And right now, I could have been left without a press car. And if I didn't have my own car, where would you be? Where would you be? Stuck at home. You have to rent something. Sure, the cops have all rented all the cars. They're all done. And the HSE rented the rest of them. Mike Burke, not that you don't answer all questions very competently, but might be a bit of crack. Not that you don't answer. Is that half of another question somewhere else, Mike Burke? Oh yeah, another question. Yeah, sorry, having someone else on the channel. I will have someone else on the channel for sure. For sure. Could be interesting because a lot of guys, everybody's sitting at home. Famous people, poor people, rich people, YouTubers who make nothing. YouTube, tiny channel, big channel, it makes no difference. We're all stuck at home in the whole wide world. Well, at least in the sort of Western world. I don't know what it's like down in the continent of Africa. I was talking to my mate in New Zealand the other day, lovely Tony. And Tony tells me that you can't buy spirits for fear of domestic violence. You can only buy beer and wine in the shop. That's the priorities of the New Zealand people. I like it. This is good. New Zealand people tend to fix everything themselves, so nobody buys a barbecue. You don't go to B&Q and buy a barbecue. You go and you get a big, 50-gallon drum. You cut it in half. You put your coals in the bottom of that. That's your barbecue. In the story. You dig a hole. You have a hongi. Whatever it is. That's how you do stuff over there. You fix things on your own. Cross says, Mazda were going to use a rotary as a range extender for an EV. Ideal application because a rotary is compact and barely ever needs to run. Haven't heard much about that project recently. Probably because of expense, just because the amount of money that these... If you remember the BEV, when the i3 started, it had a range extender in the boot. But it made the car phenomenally expensive because essentially you've taken a BMW motorbike engine and put it in the boot of the car, along with the motor for the electric engines and the batteries. It was brilliant. Don't get me wrong, the first press car I had, i3 BMW, was a range extender one, and it was phenomenal. The car just went forever, but it made it really expensive, unless you're going to lease it. Bob, your Leon gone tomorrow and you can spend 20k. What car and why? Says Gary Mills. Do you know, I'd probably buy a couple of year old Volkswagen Golf. Petrol, I'd particularly seek out a 1.4 litre TSI engine, or I would get a Skoda Octavia, probably a Estate, but you have to go back a little bit further for 20k. But they're the kind of ones I would stick in that sort of Volkswagen Group car. I know them pretty well. I like what they do. I like their handling. I like what they can produce. I don't know if they've become unreliable over time or whatever, but anything that's ever gone wrong with that car, I could fix on my own. So it was no big deal. And with 20k, that's a fair budget. Like, you're doing okay there with 20k. I wouldn't buy anything new. Like, you could probably buy a Sandero or something and have 4 or 5k left over from that. But to be honest with you, Sandero is good. It serves a really good purpose. But it's dead to drive. You're never going to enjoy it. You're never going to have a lot of fun in it. So, I'd like to have a little bit of fun every once in a while when you're driving a car, and to be engaged by the whole experience. You don't have to be driving fast. You don't have to be going mad by it. Just to be engaged by it. And so German cars tend to do that pretty well for me. I buy a smaller petrol engine car in the modern tax system would be the main thing, because it's an ongoing expense, and I want something like a bit of fun. That's where the Golf and the Seat Leons and all those kind of cars come in. I wouldn't buy anything French. Not that I don't like them, I just don't trust them. I don't trust the electrics in a French car. I don't trust that they're going to be in one piece in a few years' time. And BMW, which I do really enjoy, but would probably be out of the price range. BMW goes. Go back. See, it happens on Windows just as much as it happens on everything else. Jumping forward, I mean. Anyone else remember the Steve McQueen advert for the original Puma in the 90s? I do, Glacial Fire. I do. Steve McQueen was not a particularly nice man, but he was certainly in the ad and made the ad very good. The ad was actually very clever, because what they did was they took a movie called Bullet and they removed his Mustang in Bullet, because he drove a Mustang, and they replaced the shots of him driving a Mustang with him driving a Puma. And at the end of it, then they do the tap on the back of it, which is what he did from something else. But it was a very clever sort of CGI pulled and then, dropped in other places. A very clever little thing. But Steve McQueen as a man, he's abusive to his wife. He did all kinds of things over time. I suppose it's just the kind of people who were around in that kind of era. Funny Ferrari. Are Daihatsu gone from Ireland, Bob? What do you think of them? They were Toyota owned. I think they're definitely gone from dealerships, because I knew that Waters Garage used to be a Daihatsu dealer. Daihatsu's a funny company, because it dealt specifically with Asia, and Asia like totally different cars than we do, right? Hence like the Nissan Cube and those kind of Asian cars that trickled out a little bit, and we got to see a little glimpse of the kind of cars they like. So Daihatsu dealt almost exclusively in that region, and an importer got their hands on the rights to Daihatsu over here and started bringing them here as well. So we ended up with some of the old Daihatsu cars, and some of them were brilliant. They used to have a 1 litre diesel engine car, and it was dead little yoke. Daihatsu Koro or something it was called. Weird names. But they're gone, I think, from Ireland. I don't think they'll be back either. So it's very, very hard. Look at SsangYong at the moment. Last 4 or 5 years now, they've been trying to resurrect that brand, and it just doesn't catch. It does a little bit, and then it does a little bit nothing, and then it dies a death. And as a managing director of a company like that, you could end up washing cars just because there's just no budget for anything else. You just got to do everything on your own, and you're competing against Toyota, Nissan, big names that have big budgets and stuff in place. So it's pretty hard to launch a car again. So even if you fancied yourself a Daihatsu, it could be quite hard to get a hold of one. Now McHugh, did you see that they are extending the e-Golf production? Problems with ID3 maybe. They have pushed back ID3. Every time they talk about it, they push it back a little bit further. Now, there's a few things happening in the electric car world that is pushing out production. So, and it's not just electric cars. So what's happening is car companies were in control of pretty much everything. So Volkswagen had a factory that made Volkswagen engines. They bought in a lot of other stuff, right? They bought in things from everywhere else, but they assembled them themselves. So they put it all together in their own factories. So they could say that they've got 10,000 engines out there, so they can make 5,000 Golf, 5,000 Leon, 5,000 Octavia, 5,000 Audi A1s. There's your 10,000 engines or 20,000 engines out there ready to rock. Now, the problem is they don't make batteries, and they often don't really make the motor from the engines or motor from the electric cars either. So the big problem is they're relying on supply coming in from other countries, and everybody wants supply now. Every car company wants to make electric cars, and everybody's having problems. I think it takes a kind of generation of running cars for trust to build for electric cars. Look at Opel with their cars standing on the ground in Spain and all over the place, and Peugeot had their cars coming and then suddenly they weren't coming and then they were sent back and then they were sent forward again. ID3 has been pushed back 2 or 3 or 4 times. Tesla seemed to nail it, but then he is pushing back other cars. Like the Model Y should have been out last year sometime. Model 3 should have been out maybe 2-3 years ago, and it kind of drifted on a little bit further. So everybody's got that same issues. Some people are good at dealing with it, but then Tesla can be good at dealing because that's all they do. Electric is all they do, whereas Volkswagen have, like, BMW 76,000 employees in northern Germany. So like it ain't funny when you think about how big they are. Cross says there are long-standing combustion fuel bans on some lakes. Electric motors are usually the only motorized option for those. That's true. That's true, actually. Yeah, I read that somewhere else, but it's just the one I seen was just very clever. They had it all sorted out. I like easy to use, so I don't want to, have to start things and put things away and you have to store them a certain way and stuff. I just like things that work the first time I click them, and that's exactly what this engine seems to be doing. Crinkin Church says, is this live now? Yes, it is live this very minute. We've been live for 46 minutes. Peter Urquhart, I still can't pronounce your name. It comes to me every once in a while. I think of it and then I forget when I actually see it. Hi Bob, is that your man cave? No, it's just a spare room upstairs. There is some stuff in it from man caves, like that jump starter over there, and there's a power box thing here, and there's a roll of film of an actual camera, real roll of film. There's the front off it. Look at this. Found that the other day. Front off a Nokia phone. You've all had that. Anyone who's over the age of probably 30 has had that phone at some point. That's a stereo of a car. It's a tape deck of a car, actually. That Sony up right there. It's a CD player that I put in a car and I took the tape deck out. Afternoon Bob, 20 cent in North London. Happy days. What is? 20 degrees Celsius. Yeah, it's blue sky, sunny here. It's lovely. It's lovely, man. It's really nice. Cross has been hidden by whatever. I have to hold the review. I don't know why. ID3 is a shit show. There you go. Software issues. Testers reporting the cars rebooting multiple times a day, etc. A few thousand already off production line are sitting there waiting for software to be fixed. You see? That's the way it happens. Hannah Flavin. Hi Bob, your favourite fan. Hannah Flavin is my daughter and you're very nice. Thank you very much. She's downstairs watching this. I'd say live stream. You're so good. She has. I don't think she has a YouTube channel, but she has a YouTube account because she subscribes to all of the cool gamer types out there. Is the young Hannah. I'll be down in a few minutes. Put the kettle on. Glenn Neighbour, hope you're keeping safe. I am safe as houses, safe as my own house inside it. But trying not to blow myself up with my computer, which is sitting here beside me, in small bits. I should just bite the bullet and buy a new one. For God's sake, it's like being crippled by indecision. Peter says, hi Bob, I am like you. I like VW Group cars. I was looking to change my Yeti but can't find anything better. You're probably not going to find that as good as the Yeti in first size. Yeti's still one of my all-time favourite cars. Just the weird shape, the name, the kind of stupidity of the whole car in its own little way. It was just clever. I actually think it's a retrograde step that Skoda's after making, getting rid of the name and not reinventing the car again. Now sales are very small on Yeti, so I suppose they do that as well, I'm drinking water because I was out running, by the way. I'm just back in from a 5k and did loads of workouts this morning. TS, because I need to lose weight. I'm nearly 98 kgs, which is probably the heaviest I've been. I used to be 16 and a half stone. That's a long time ago now, mind you. But I used to be over 16 stone weight, which is 120, 110 kgs, something like that. It's very heavy. Dangerously heavy for me because I'm 6'1", and at that weight I'm chunky, round face. So I started to gain weight again there around Christmas time because I got an injury in my back and I couldn't work out in any way, shape or form after doing half marathons and everything last year. And the injury has slowed me down. And so I ended up starting to gain weight, and now I have to lose it again. So I'm doing the Joe Wicks workout every day for the last 12 days now, I think. TS, cheers, Bob. What do you think of Ford interiors? Some of the cars look really sporty with some nice colours, and their interiors are built well but very bland if only they mirrored the outside. The only problem I ever had with Ford interiors, apart from the blandness, okay, blandness is not that bad because you don't look at it all the time. If it feels nice, as long as it doesn't look mental lines and cuts and dashes everywhere like the way Hyundai do it, it's usually fine. But Ford doing a good interior, but sometimes the software in the Ford cars, the older ones, the software in that was kind of cheap, like old LED cheap stuff. It worked, but it just looked fairly cheap compared to what Ford should be doing, you know. Ford is currently ripping itself apart as a company slowly, but they'll get themselves back on stream again, but they need, I think some of the problem comes from the fact that it's a family business, and I know that sounds kind of harsh, but actually there are Ford people on the board, and that is actually causing some problem because it'll always come down to what my daddy would have done, you know. So there's always an element to that in any business, whereas Volkswagen is much more, you know, it's guided by profit and loss and by moving around, and you know there's politics involved, but not quite as much history as there would be in a family-run business. Mike Burke says I used to have a Daihatsu 4-track for going in and out of the bog. It would go anywhere. In fairness to them, they would. They're very simple underneath. You know, no complicated electronics, limited slip differential, none of that stuff. Just a big chunk of metal that slipped into the other chunk of metal, and you were suddenly a 4-wheel drive and off you went. You know, I'd rather have one of those old Daihatsu things hanging around in the arse end of the Sahara Desert than I would have a Range Rover, you know. I have a 1-litre 3-cylinder petrol Charade, a Daihatsu Charade. Remember them yokes? God, they were very weird looking, bland, strange things, but yeah, very good cars. In 2005, I'm using as a track car from Mondello, excellent little car. SsangYong is a disaster. I have to supply parts off a retired guy in England. That's true. SsangYong, you see, the problem is a lot of these Asian companies have a market. They have a market, and it's not here. It's somewhere else. European markets are a very strange place to operate in. We're very, very old, and we're an area where you could be driving down a beautifully tarmacked road, flat as a pancake, and the next second you're on cobblestones. That's the way we are set up. You just don't have that in Asia. You don't have that in Japan, so they don't have to deal with any of that sort of stuff. And plus, the people are generally all around the same size, right? So if you look at any Japanese television, vast majority of them either slim and 5'5" or slim and 5'6". That's here we have people who are 8'4" down to 5'2", you know, and everybody in between. So it's a really difficult market to operate in. Europe is probably notoriously the most difficult because we demand a lot more from cars. We also have other parts of the market like Germany, where you have the Autobahn, completely unlimited speed. Now half the cars that are for sale in Japan couldn't survive there. They'd be blown off the road by something else. Just wind, which is blow them off the road. We have difficult weather. We have everything from deepest, darkest ice fields up in Norway to down to the very south of France and into Spain, where we have near desert levels. So it's a really hard market to operate in. And for SsangYong, it's not something they ever wanted to invest big money in. If they sold 20 cars, 30 cars a year, they'd be very happy, you know. They make good cars, not completely wrong with them, but they're just not terribly European. New diff from SsangYong is 3,800 quid excluding VAT. Madness. Jeez, for diff, wow. I wouldn't even pay 500 quid for a diff for even an ordinary one. Second hand market has fallen on its arse for these yokes as well. Like there's a place here in Portlaoise called Whelan's that does used parts. So crashed cars and scrapped cars and stuff come out there, and they take all the parts out and put them on the shelf. So you go down and buy yourself a new door for a Nissan Micra. It's already taken off the car. It's sitting out on one side. You just pay for it and walk out and fit it yourself. It's handy. I used to never buy anything new apart from service parts. But if I damaged a panel or something in the car, I'd go to Whelan's or I'd go to one of the scrap yards and pick up the bits that I needed there, and that was it. John Carney's here. Hi Bob, what a lovely day in Portlaoise. Was out for a walk this morning and heard birds singing, just lovely. You know, there's a new bird that comes into the backyard every day now and just whistles his head off at the end of the day. It's beautiful. Nature has started to reclaim a little bit of the world since we slowed down. And I don't mean we can sit back and look at all these things and go, you know, this is great for the world, we don't stop travelling. But there is an element of what's happening in the world by us not doing anything to it. It's just coming back on its own, and birds are singing and foxes are in Dublin city centre, and you know, you've got all these things that are happening around you. I saw a badger the other day out in the field next to us here. They're all starting to come back in. Maybe we're paying more attention. Maybe it's just not there. It's brilliant though. It's great to see. Nature's given us a kick in the ass by releasing this virus in the first place, and we should heed that kick in the ass and go, yeah, that's a good idea. We should just stop doing things like that. Now McHugh, hi, the old Nokia's 3210 is the Chuck Norris of old phones. There's one of them hanging around here somewhere. I don't know where it is now, but it's there. It's back there somewhere. We don't get rid of phones here. If the old vintage ones, antique yokes, I tend to hold on to them and keep them, because all that'll happen is they're stripped out. The electronics will be stripped out, the precious metal will be pulled out, and it'll just get fired in the bin. I'll never see it again. I'm like a historian with these things. I like to hold on to them. So that's my fun day, is to be able to hold on to those sort of stuff. DCB says, hi Bob, I've always liked your review on the Kia Stinger. Good car, Stinger, actually, yeah. And it's funny how you reacted to the Power. Hope your review yet to be released faced with the Stinger later this year. I've heard nothing from Kia Ireland about the Kia Stinger, the new one coming up. Now, at the same time, everybody's at home, so like press releases have died. There is none, essentially. There is a couple of WhatsApp groups set up. Volkswagen Ireland set up one as well to kind of alert us about the stuff that they're doing. But even there, it's like once a week maybe you get something out of them. So it's very hard to make content or to understand where they're going to go. Now, when we go back to work, we're going to just it'll all coming on top of us again. So we'll see what happens then. Footy Friar says, YouTube a viable part-time job, Bob. I was thinking of putting a bit of effort into YouTube and see what happens. Honestly, if I wouldn't advise anyone right now to think about starting a YouTube channel, because with everybody really bored and nothing else to do, a million YouTube channels. Even Don, the painter, I met him a couple of times. I actually tweeted a picture of him. I ended up talking to him on an airplane on the way home one night. Don Conroy, even he has started a YouTube channel, right? And he has broke his hole promoting it. It's been on radio, he's been on telly, he's been everywhere. And he has 2,000 subscribers. You know, so I don't think that people come from the outside. I've been on Ray Darcy's show, I've been on Morning Ireland, I've been on all the traditional media stuff, and I never really got a single new subscriber from them. Very few. Most of the subscribers come from social media. They come out of Facebook, they come out of Twitter, they come out of Instagram, they come out of WhatsApp or whatever. You know, they come from somewhere out there. But the problem is, if you want to start a YouTube channel now, it's going to be, and I'm telling you now, it'll be 3 years, maybe longer, before you make a cent from it. And that is you every week putting up at least one video a week, if not two, and going live and making it look professional, make it look like you've got a big camera crew saying the words we are going to take the next car out on the road and do the thing. And there's no we, there's just you on your own and a phone. On the flip side of that, equipment to start a YouTube channel is very straightforward now. It's just a phone. It's all you really need. Maybe a light or two, a webcam, a laptop to edit it on. It's cheaper to get it going, but it's much harder to get it to the point of where it's turning into an income, where it turns into something that's actually worth your while doing. It still isn't. I would say I put more hours into YouTube than I get paid for on YouTube. By YouTube, not by donations and things involved. It's become a large part of what goes on here. But as for YouTube, I still reckon there's more. Like if I didn't put up a video this week, the income on YouTube would just drop off a cliff. Because there's no new video, and YouTube just won't promote your channel if you don't put up a new video. So it's this chasing your tail, constantly having to put out some new content no matter what, or your channel starts to suffer and it never recovers. I've seen loads of channels go out of business entirely because they just don't put up enough stuff. Paul Fun says, what part of Ireland are you related to Dublin? Portlaoise is kind of like, geographically we're like in the very centre of Ireland. It's in Laois, which is the only county who doesn't touch a county that touches the sea. So Kildare's doesn't touch the sea and so on, go around the edge of it. But we are probably almost precisely west of Dublin in a straight line. It has an actual shopping centre and a motorway. It does. It has a N7 passes by. We've got all the shops. It's a big town. 37,000 people living around here. It's quite a large town. It's one of the larger towns in the country. Athlone, Tullamore would be similar size, I suppose. Quite big places. Like, proportionally wise, Dublin is far more populated than it should be. You know, there's a gigantic amount of people living in Dublin. A huge proportion. You look at the way the world has gone now for that exact problem, is that Dublin now constantly has to fight against coronavirus because there's so many people up there. It's the problem. Nearly all the deaths are there. Nearly all the new cases happen there. So it's because of the proximity of everybody. Eric Watchford, talking about Nokias, they are still superior to any modern smartphone for actually making a call. And I 100% agree with you. I tell you, I have this thing. What the hell is this called? A Xiaomi Mi A3. That's this phone. It's one of those phones, got touchscreen built into the thing and all. You can press it, you know, it's got fingerprint control and all that stuff built into it. And the battery in it is, I don't know what size exactly it is, but it lasts for ages. Ages and ages, like 2 days, 2.5 days. iPhone 7 does far more work on a daily basis, and it lasts probably a day, maybe. I'll charge it once a day anyway, put it that way. But it does far more work. That's in constant work, that thing. Glenn says, by the way, Bob, I got a Toyota CHR Android Auto sorted with the dealer and the end, and emailed on you what dealer. Oh, nice. That's good, because I was told you could do nothing with your Android Auto putting into your car. You must have figured out a way to do it, because it was meant to be replacing your entire dashboard, as far as I know. So I don't know. Good to know that you actually got it done, though. Thank be to God. Robs 1741471 says, hi Bob, please say BMW 3 Series. In that way, BMW 3 Series, like tree, like a tree that grows, because that's 33 and a third. That's an Irish thing. I have lived overseas. I know. I remember when I lived in New Zealand, the amount of people used to come in and go, can you just say 33 and a third, please? It's funny. Top of the morning to you. We got all that sort of stuff as well. I met Jacksepticeye once. I actually met his mother too, believe it or not. She lives in Westmeath. She's a lovely woman. She's in Midlands 1 and 3 one day. I'll Google Earth it. That's how you do. Portlaoise. It's easy to find. It's the only town in Ireland that has a maximum security prison in it. Does. Philip Thornton. Hi Bob. Gotta agree with you on the BMW i3 range extender. It's a supercar. I have one and I love it, though I can't get over why other car companies don't use a similar system. Seems odd. It's not odd, it's just the price of it. The problem is the price and the expense, because BMW had access to a motorbike engine. Okay, so BMW Motorrad make motorbikes. So they could get a hold of one of these motorbike engines, essentially a motorbike engine, and adapt it and put it into the boot and make that space work for it. A lot of car companies couldn't get an engine that size and then put the money into developing it. And right at the tail end of that, when it was released, BMW lost their way entirely when it came to electric cars. They had the i8, the i3, they're ready to go. They should have had an i4, i5, i6, all these other cars. And the managing director, who's gone now, but the managing director went, don't want to do this electric car stuff anymore. Let's just concentrate on making really good diesel engines. Diesel for the win! Yay! Guess what? 2 or 3 years later, they're so far behind the ball now, they don't know what they're going to do. So we'll see how BMW turn out. They've made cuts ever. Even BMW Ireland has had cuts, huge job losses left, right and centre. So it's been a difficult year for a lot of car companies. Charlie Sturgis says, what cars are you excited for hitting the Irish market this year? We don't know. Don't know what's going to happen this year. There's a couple of cool stuff coming from Skoda, as they tend to do something pretty clever every time. They have a number of electric cars, BEVs, that are going to hit the market later on this year. I've driven one. I can't talk about it. It's all under embargo. I still don't have the footage of me driving it around, but I drove it here in Ireland. They brought over a few people from Ireland to drive it, but just a handful. We all a little spin, but I can't tell you how good or bad it is. It's good. And hopefully that'll work out for them. But it's taped up and it was all camouflage and all that stuff. But I had a spin on that. But if that's where they're going and Volkswagen go with that 500 kilometer range stuff on BEVs, is going to be incredibly exciting future for battery cars, because battery cars will save our good petrol cars and diesel cars and things. That's kind of what happened to horse over years as well. The horse was beaten to death in the street to make them work harder and longer and ride further. And then petrol cars came and trucks were invented. And boom, suddenly horses were now a thing to be looked after and minded and put into races. And they're oiled up and cleaned and fed well. And, so they were saved by it. And classic cars are being saved by the Euro boxes we drive every day, the crap cars we drive the whole time. Big classic cars are being saved for that. And you'll find electric cars which will become the commuter car, the car just to drive you to work and back, and you don't really care how good or bad it is. And suddenly the classic petrol car, the good car that we have back here, good petrol engines will survive a bit longer. Sean McCabe asked me, Bob, want to get diesel today? I nearly forgot how to drive. It's been that long in isolation. I'm sure your man at the petrol station was going, is that a car? Is that a car going to buy diesel? Because they were cracking up. They had no money. They were getting no money for doing anything. It was interesting, actually. It's funny enough to see it happen, how petrol stations were forced to kind of stay open. They were told they were essential services. And yet, nobody was out buying any petrol diesel. It's very strange to go through Portlaoise town. Like I said, it has 37,000 people living in it. And I could walk across 4 lanes of traffic today. No problem. No cars. Nothing to dodge. Don't have to wait for the lights. Just stroll out. By the way, if you're American, we don't have jaywalking laws here in Ireland. You can cross the road wherever you want. And believe it or not, drivers, any drivers out there, once a pedestrian is on the road, they have the right of way. Did you know that? So once a pedestrian has entered the driveway, so once a pedestrian has strolled out onto the middle of the road, whether they're right or wrong, they have the right of way. You have no rights to drive over them or round them or dodge them and drive on. You're supposed to stop now. That is actually in our road laws here, and it's never taught. It never really comes up in court either. But someday someone will bring that thing to court and will end up being proved right. Paul Fun. By the way, I put a dash cam into my car just in case, because it's so quiet out there. People are taking huge chances, and I thought I'd keep a dash cam in the car forever. So this is a good time to get a dash cam in your car too. Not far, about the same distance, my father's hometown is in the opposite direction. He's from Drogheda. Yes, Drogheda, yeah. We'd be like, draw a circle around Dublin, and Drogheda would be in that circle along with Portlaoise, and then you'd have kind of Kilkenny would be down further down to the southwest of us. Carlow would be probably closer to Dublin, ever so slightly. Athy, and then you go around the corner there into places like Greystones or somewhere further out into Wicklow. And Noel Griffin, BEVs may need minor care to keep the batteries healthy during COVID-19, if not in use for a few months. One advantage, not having to handle forecourt pumps. I've never really worried about handling forecourt pumps, I have to say, Noel, but like I know it can be a little bit smelly for forecourt pumps, but I wouldn't let that put me off buying an electric car or buying a diesel car. But if the temperature goes down, which it probably won't, next few days is going to be quite nice, so if the temperature goes down, you might want to top up your car a little bit, your electric car. But don't leave your car standing absolutely still, no matter what kind of car it is. Don't leave it standing absolutely still for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And the reason behind that is because you get flat spots on your tyre will start to rot, moss will start to grow. This all happens very quickly with cars. Anything that is in the shade in a car, even if the sun rises across only one side of your car, the other side of your car stays damp, and you will start to get moss, and you start to get fungus growing into your car, and you start to weather things. So go for a drive, lads. I know you have to stay 2 kilometres from home, but in a car you can go a little bit further. If you go around the circumference of a 2 kilometre exclusion zone, you're doing 12 kilometres, so it's fine. Robert Berry says, hi Bob, have you heard anything about the Lexus might be changing the IS300? I hope they do. They did a good job, Lexus, in the last 2 years on their cars. They really have. What was that big one I had recently? The LS? No, not the LS. Something else. Anyway, they're not good at naming cars. It was a 450H, I think. That was really good. They've done a really good job in their infotainment system. They've made huge improvements to their cabin quality and noise and the handling. And they're hybrid. They've been hybrid since a long, long time. The diesel IS is gone. So if Lexus do a good job on the 3-box saloon and stuff, there'd be no reason not to buy one, because they really are an exclusive car. It really is something different. Even Volvos and stuff, like you're starting to see Volvos everywhere. They're starting to become common. You could go into a Tesco's car park and lose an Audi or lose a Mercedes. And I know they're great cars, but literally they're everywhere. Everybody has one. If you want something really different, buy a Lexus. James Daly, hi Bob. the Mitsubishi L200, great review. Just wondering, is the new 2.2 litre diesel engine that it now has the same engine it had in the Outlander before they stopped selling the diesel Outlander in Ireland? Yes, it is. There's two advantages to having that 2.2 litre engine. One is spare parts are everywhere. Two, it's really reliable. That is one of those long-standing, it's like the 1.5 DCI that Renault, Nissan share. It's an old engine, but old is actually pretty good because it will last a long time and parts are easy to get. It's also cheaper on you because they don't have to reinvent the wheel to make a new engine. They don't have to reinvent the entire system, try and get one for you. So it's actually pretty good. So it's the same engine they've had all along. It comes from the Mitsubishi parts bin, so it's going to be thereabouts. Mitsubishi made the disastrous mistake, as far as I can see, of getting into the bed into the Renault-Nissan alliance. And now they kind of go, well, what do we do now? Well, you're all fighting amongst yourselves. We're here. Hello. You've arrived. We'd like some electric stuff, please. Thanks. Declan Fitzgerald just says, hi, Bob. Hi, Declan. How are you? Funny Ferrari. If you're stuck for a video, Bob, you could review your Xiaomi. Being interesting. Yeah, I often thought I could put them one against the other, putting the iPhone against the Xiaomi. Do you like my desktop? That's some wood out on Sleep Bloom, and somebody had painted BF on it. Just took a picture of BF written out somewhere. There's one of those Forester guys that chopped it down. Probably what's his name? There's a guy on Instagram that I was following for a bit, but he was annoying the crap out of me. Big Books or Big Bang or something. He's a forest guy here in Ireland. Robin Mulhall, Bob, Xiaomi, now the third mobile manufacturer in the world, a big brand over here in Spain. I had no problem, and I have headphones from Xiaomi as well. Little in-ear bud ones that I use for running, and they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. This phone with this massive screen and all the fingerprint touch thing, and it's got a little camera built in up the top. It's got a triple camera on the back. It's pretty good. It's fairly reliable. I was using it for Skype earlier on today. I've used it for Twitter as well. I use it at home. Big screen on. There's my Twitter account. Big screen. Who retweeted Paddy Cosgrave? Will you give it a break? Don't retweet that lunatic. Anyway, there's the big screen on that. That was $180 from GearBest for nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it works here 100% of the time. And the battery lasts for days. The only problem I have is it turns the screen. So if you rotate the screen, it rotates too quickly. No, it won't rotate on Twitter. Look, it rotates too quickly. So it's only just like a tremble device. It goes over and back too fast. That's my only major problem with it. Everything else is fine. Is everyone joining their 30-day free trial of communism? This could be communism. I suppose you could put it down to something like communism. The only difference is here I can buy anything I bloody well like. That doesn't work in communism. Phil H. Hi Bob. And you know what I must say? You know the 350 quid the government are giving you if you've lost your job due to COVID-19. Would that be something like the minimum wage we should have now? 350 quid a week. If that's what they deem to be something that would keep everybody out of the poorhouse. Is that the kind of money we should be doing the whole time? Anyway, just wondering. Phil H. And if you're from the UK and you've joined us here today, Ireland has decided, and I think the UK did as well, to give everyone who lost their job due to COVID-19 a €350 a week, basically on questioning where they came from. And they've opened the private hospitals and public hospitals for beds for everybody. So it's kind of like a unique thing, and there'll be no charge. If you're being treated for COVID-19, there'll be no charge for the stay in any of the hospitals. Declan Fitzgerald, I have a Skoda Yeti 4x4. It's a bulletproof car except for the bloody panoramic roof is leaking. I rang my Skoda garage and they say it could cost thousands to repair. Any ideas? Love the show. That is a known problem, that leaking roof on the Skoda roof. I can tell you now because I've heard that multiple times, Declan. Okay, so fixing it though, they probably won't because you've probably long since gone out of warranty on that one, right? There's only two ways. Water gets in. If there's a way in, if there's any possible way into a car, water finds it. It's so good at it that most mechanics will test the seals on all sorts of stuff with just a cup of water. That's how you do it. You pour water in the front windshield and see where the leak is coming in, because water is just phenomenal, finding little tiny cracks and seals and stuff. Now, if it's a panoramic roof, the reason there's a problem up there is because the sun has been shining on it since the car was brand new. and the rubber seals around the outside are starting to perish, but not visibly. You can't see the perishing, and you know what's happening because the water's found a way under it. So water finds a way under the plastic, gets in around the back, starts to follow the channels, and will come out. And I bet you some of the time the leaking roof is filling some part of the back seat or the boot as you accelerate, or it comes down the front window as you drive off. Now you can keep it dry. It's not really applicable in Ireland because it is going to leak at some point. You can replace the seals yourself. It's not really that hard to replace seals. It just requires two of you to lift out that panoramic sunroof when you take out the seals. Or you can use something like, you get like a black glue in a long tube and you pump it out and just seal it shut. Seal it up. Forget about it. Don't ever think about opening it again. Just seal the whole thing shut. And that would cost you probably $6.99 for a can of that stuff. Frank78 got a new BMW 330e just in time to be able to not to drive it anywhere. Love the channel, Bob says. Good car, actually, BMW 330e. I quite enjoyed that car. I thought it was a bit short for the money you were paying for the E bit. I thought the range was a bit short, but other than that, I think it's actually fine. The range is going up on those PHEVs, by the way. It's 50 to 75 kilometers will be coming at some point in the near future. Darren Fagan. I missed that, just hop forward. Afternoon, Bob. I asked you this yesterday, but I had to jump off before I got the answer. What was yesterday? Monday. And yeah. Have you seen the new Sorento coming out? What do you think? Darren, if you're here now, you answer. I'll answer the question again. It looks nice. I haven't seen it nor driven it in the metal. I was supposed to be on the launch of it, but it looks pretty good. Yeah, it's not too bad. Kia's going European styling with the way that they're working at the moment. That's pretty normal for most of these guys because the Kias are built here in Europe. Most of the design teams are here in Europe. They're funded by Korea, but basically everything comes out of Europe for everything to do with Kia. Hyundai, not so much. They have headquarters, but it's not quite as emphasized about being a European company. This stream is actually working out quite well. I quite like this setup. I need a different chair. This chair is awful. It's just a big solid wood kitchen chair, and it's about as comfortable now as a bed of nails. Bob, where do you source your news from? RTE, BBC or The Guardian? Guardian would be the top of those three. Irish news more RTE, but I would take a lot of what they say with a grain of salt to some degree. I often trust individual journalists rather than trusting an outlet so much. Usually a social media account of an individual journalist like Fergal Bowers or someone will be more trustworthy. He's more likely to kind of open his mouth a bit wider on his social media than will be on air, so to speak. A lot of the news information I get comes through WhatsApp from journalist friends of mine who will sometimes give me the behind the scenes story, and people tell me stuff as well, which is the other part of that. A lot of people actually just send me information direct, and it's like, oh, I wonder is that true? I'm a naturally curious person. Naturally, I tend to ask what appears to be entirely inappropriate questions, and it usually starts the best conversation with someone you've ever had. Which is why I'm hoping to have people on this stream to interview them and talk to them, just have a conversation with them, and do it for an audience, and just do it that way. It'd be nice. Michael Sobansky. Hi Bob, what do you think about the new Mark 8 Golf? I test drove one before the lockdown. I'm not a huge fan of the digital switches everywhere. Me neither, in fairness. I actually think the Golf 8 is a bit of a step backwards. It handles well, but if you cover over the front part of the car and look at it from everywhere else back, it's the Golf 7, like in every respect. The problem for Volkswagen is the Golf 7 was so goddamn good. It's so hard to move on from something that is incredibly good to something that's better. Really hard. So where do you make that balance? How do you make that work out? So the problem for the Golf 8 is they were ready with the ID3. They were kind of going, we'll release the Golf 8, we'll have the ID3, we'll just do a soft launch in the Golf 8, not worry too much about it. And then the ID3 suddenly is pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and now suddenly the emphasis is on the Golf 8. Like, you really have to do something here because it's an odd looking car. I think it's a little bit odd in the front as well, but the interior, I'm not a big fan. I'd have to use it. I haven't had one here for a long test for the week. Like, I'd have to sit in it and start playing with it and get used to it. It is a bit plasticky inside, a bit like the ID3. There's a big lump of black plastic going across the centre, so it's a little bit plasticky for what you're paying. Sean asks, have I still got my Seat Leon? I do, yeah. When are you doing a review of it? I don't know. I don't want to give away the license plate on it, to be honest with you. It's just an ordinary license plate. My wife drives it every day, so I don't want people to be shouting at her in the street going, "It's Bob's car." She drives it way more than me. Before I sell it, if I'm selling it, which I probably will do this year maybe, before I sell it, I will do a full review on the car, for sure. Barry Hughes. I have a Xiaomi A2 Lite, 4,500 milliamp hour battery, lasts nearly 2 days. Crap camera though. Yeah, I find there's no stabilization on that camera. Even on the back one, it's got 3 lenses to it. But if you walk and move while making a video, it's like you're throwing it up in the air. It looks terrible. But as a fixed lens, so if you put it on a tripod or you hold it still for a photograph, it's very, very good. Plus, this Xiaomi comes with, what does Google call it? It's like naked Google, it's like naked Chrome, or naked, what do you call it? The operating system. Anyway, it's the most basic version of the operating system is on this yoke. So there's no sort of bloatware that goes with it. It just comes fairly empty of stuff. And updates every once in a while. So it's actually pretty good. But for $180, you couldn't go very far wrong. Compared to an iPhone, like even a second-hand iPhone 7 is going to be 200 quid, like. And we're up to iPhone 11 Pro at the moment, so it's you're very far behind. Lee Moore says UK is covering 80% of salary up to $2,500 per month. Yeah, we do the same thing for people who still have their job. So if your employment has closed but you still have the job, the government are paying 80% of your salary up to that same amount. But what's happened is some people the company has closed and they're not paying any wages, and those people will get at least 350 quid a week straight away in job seekers. So nobody's going to be hopefully no one's going to be too stuck on what's happening next. Patrick Sullivan. Hi Bob, thanks for broadcasting midweek. Makes work from home a little better. Just wanted to give you a shout out for your merchandise. The sweatshirt I bought is my warmest. Yeah, there's sweatshirt, there is there is merch there, or what do you say, these modern parlance of things. I actually have a few t-shirts, and my daughter wears the hoodie that says "See on the far side" in front of it. I must do new stuff. I'm going to get my kids to do some artwork because they're really good, really, really good cartoon stuff. I want to get do some artwork and scan it in and maybe make a t-shirt or two of it for the crack, because I'd actually like a couple of t-shirts with their artwork on it as well. So put it up as merch. It's very hard to find any merch in a merch store that suits anything that I do though, other than See on the Far Side or something else like Bring Back Knobs or something, you know. What do you think of Elon Musk? I don't know him. Excellent marketer, very, very good at that. I'd hate to see him take over the world. I'd hate to see that. That would be a bit much now, because you know some things are very obvious. He makes it sound very obvious, but not very straightforward. And you know, Tesla still have failed to make a profit for years. They're okay, but he's an odd one. Android One, that's correct. Android One is the operating system on this yoke, and it's the most basic version of Android. So Samsung comes with a pile of Samsung crap installed on it before you ever open it. That comes with nothing. Patrick Sullivan. Hi Bob, thanks for broadcast. Oh, you did that one. Oh, I can scroll with that as well. I'm very good. I can scroll with another thing over here. Windows. Wow, Windows PCs. Who knew? I use nothing but PCs for years, but I'm so long editing videos on a Mac that I've forgotten everything on a PC. I even went Alt A to select all when it's Control A on it's different keys. Peter says, hi Bob, have you driven the BMW M140i? It's a mad car for the money in the UK. My son has one. Brilliant car, absolutely brilliant, phenomenal look. They didn't make enough of them. That was the problem. They ran out. Phil H says, thanks for mentioning my name twice, but you never answered my question. Given that 75% of the UK people in the UK don't have their own garage driveway, how do you see the future of all electric vehicles? We are finding ways of charging cars in different ways. We're going to have to figure out some way that we can give people their own charge point or share a charge point. There is an element of sharing stuff, like in where I live here, there's enough houses around here that we could all get together and buy our own bloody power station, right? There just is. We could do it. Substation. Now there must be a way that we can do that with solar panels, with pooling resources into a bigger battery system where we can store the energy that's coming in from the solar units to charge cars with. You can create parking spaces that are away from where you live, not necessarily right outside your window, and have them hooked up. I know I talked to some guys from EV Box who were talking about that exact thing, being able to control the bill that's coming in, so no matter where you go anywhere in Ireland and charge on any point, and it'll bill your house instead of billing your you know, it'll come up on a bill from your house electricity. So There's always a way to get things done if you stop thinking the way that petrol and diesel people think, that we just go to the petrol station, squeeze it and go. It's not that straightforward anymore. We have to think other ways. Now, fast charging is going to play an element here as well, of moving people on, being able to charge at a very high rate very quickly. It can damage the batteries, but being able to do it, we won't be worried about charging up so often. You can do it more often. Guaranteed minimum income would be the term correct, Cross 13. That is exactly what I'm thinking of. I'm wondering if that €350 mark is what we should be looking at, instead of saying that we can go to the dole office, or go here, go there, go wherever it is, that we have a minimum income of 350 quid. If you start at that, everything else is profit. You could work for less. You could stop worrying about minimum wage in work. You would work in the work you like doing rather than the work that you have to do. I'm not very good, by the way, of wanting to give work advice, because I have pretty much hated every job I've ever had, and I can never stay in a job that I don't like. If I don't like it, I'm bad at it. I become really bad at the job, and I don't like doing it. And so it's like, don't want to do that, and I rebel against it. If I like a job, if you include me in the whole thing, if I know how your whole business operates, so if you take me into someone that does your marketing or something, I can understand how your business operates. I'm brilliant at it. I like that. I like that whole picture of things. What I don't like doing is moving the little box into the bigger box and putting the bigger box into a pallet or something. That bores me. I'm too creative for that. I can't deal with that sort of not creative bit. Funny Ferrari, when you started YouTube, did you always plan on video being your main outlet, or was written journalism your aim? When I started first, I was the only one doing cars on YouTube in Ireland. And everybody, I remember getting threats and everything. I got threats from journalists back then as well, saying, stay out of my way, or we'll have to have words about what you're doing. But what I wanted to do was review cars. That was really my only thing. My only thing was, I watched Top Gear, I watched Clarkson, I watched Fifth Gear, I watched all these things. I thought, that's pretty good. I'd like to do that, so I'm going to do that. Whether that would be paper or video didn't really stand out to me one way or the other. I found video easier than writing an article, and yet I can churn out an article I could turn out a 500-word article here in maybe half an hour, 40 minutes, and another 20 minutes to edit it, to put it together in a nice form and put it out. And it's the same, I think, for video. I find video easier way to communicate. I would actually prefer to make a video to tweet than to write a tweet. I like putting a GIF with a tweet because it says a lot more than just the words. So video has always been where I like to be, where I want to be, and what I want to do. Presenting video, not necessarily editing or putting it together. Just I like presenting stuff, and I find it easier to talk live like this. This is easy for me. I don't find this a difficult thing to do. I find this a very straightforward thing to do. Some people find this really hard. They prefer a script and they prefer everything else. And I'm sure you've listened to some super mega star talk in real life, and they're crap. They're boring, and yet in the movie they're brilliant. And it's because they're an actor. They're not acting when they're talking as themselves. I've met a good few famous people over the years, but most of them are really nice until you turn a camera on them, and then they're not very nice after that. Tammy Wana says, Jesus, you have a right few today, Bob. I have, yeah, there's a good few people actually. 95 people watching today for a Tuesday. That's all right. Normally get about 3,000 to 4,000 people on a Sunday watching it, so it's okay. I'm alright with that. If there was 5 of you here, I'd be still okay. I was only going to do this for an hour, but we're already on to an hour and a half, so I have to phone up Mary Drives at the end of this and figure out some other way of doing this. We are doing 70% pop, not 80%. Oh, is it? Oh, we're going to do 70% of the income. Aren't we holding back down 10% for the crack, huh? For the Irish government paying companies so you can get paid. Yeah, it is awful. Look, it won't be able to last. The problem with that is that has to be short term. We can't get into a point where this is going on for a very, very long time. So we have to get to a point now, right? We have to get back to work. And I know this is not the time to do it, but we have to start thinking about it in some way, shape or form. Whether it's not everybody, whether it's just some of us or whatever, we have to start about the work. Robert Doyle, hi Bob and gang, only turning in now. YouTube notifications have gone diabolical. It was only a chance found this. I hope you all are good. Same for me this morning. I've actually got Joe Wicks set up on my phone to notify me when he uploads anything. or does anything. I have all the notifications turned on, and yet every single morning he clicks live, and it takes 2 or 3 minutes before the thing actually puts out the notifications. Sometimes longer. Sometimes you just got to refresh the page the whole time. YouTube seem to have a major problem, but most of these guys are working from home as well, so can't complain to anybody. Just started echoing, says Christopher Wayne. Don't know where the echoing for me or you. XCon new chapter. XCon new chapter. What a username that is. That just sums up an entire lifetime of somebody's life is contained in 3 and a bit words with a hyphen in the middle. XCon new chapter. Do you think they should make electrical airliners? No. There's a major problem with electrical and flying, right? Because airplanes currently, an ordinary airplane, when they fill up with gas and they take off, they've got a weight. They're usually taking off heavier than they can land. That usually is the case, right? So if their takeoff weight is, I'm just going to pull numbers from the air, 10,000 kgs. They take off, that's their takeoff weight, but their landing weight might be 5,000 kgs, right? But they burn the fuel in between the two, so the plane is actually lighter when it's coming down. So they can land with the weight, more weight, or less weight than they can take off it. So the problem with batteries is batteries don't get lighter as they get empty, whereas petrochemical does burn off. The liquid actually disappears off it. So you can't really do it yet. There is some electrical experimentation going on with smaller aircraft, but it's very short range. Plus, they're not very fuel efficient. A helicopter, for instance, taking off absolutely massacres fuel. So if you had an electrical helicopter to fly from here to there and then have to land again to recharge for the next 5 hours, just wouldn't work at the moment. Something maybe for the future, but if we all flew less, we'd make a massive difference to the environment. First of all, forgetting about making electrical, just fly less and you're done. Sir, with a weird name like a jumble of letters. Second-hand electric cars, what do you look out for? Number 1, history. Who's owned it? What did it do with it? What did he use it for? I'd rather see a guy who owned a fleet car drive it up and down the motorway every single day and had to do a service every 6 months, and it's done on religiously on time. That's the kind of car. They're the brilliant cars to look out for. When a car comes and has absolutely no history, or some lad says it's a lady owner, only one lady owner, and you find out it's a 21-year-old young lad who's been ragging a hole off the car up and down every single motorway. There's the problem. It's performance level. No matter what the car is, it cannot do high performance every day of the week. You have to have it to such a degree that it had a break at some point. So with second-hand cars, first thing is history. Second thing then is general condition. It's very easy to wash a car and have it clean and dry and make it look nice and shiny. But get up close. Look at the paintwork. Look for scratches. Look at the tires inside and out. Look at the pedals on the floor. Are they worn down? Are they missing bits? Is there grime and gunge and stuff underneath? When you open the bonnet, is it a clean engine, a dirty engine? I wouldn't be too worried about a little bit of dirt here and there. But is there any oil? Is there any caulking, filter, dirt? When you're actually going to drive the car, does it accelerate like you expect? Is it accelerating nicely? Is it smooth? Is it missing points? Is it making any weird rattles at certain revs? When you rev it up, does it suddenly start to make a jingle jangle sound around 5,000, 6,000 RPM? Could be any number of things wrong with it. But that noise, the minute you hear it, walk away. An engine should go rum. That's it. End of story. It shouldn't go ram-a-ding-ding-ding-ding. It doesn't sound right. If it doesn't sound right to you, walk away. It's probably going to be something. Anything wrong with an engine costs a fortune. And unless you know exactly what you're doing, run. Just run. So unless you're like me, or you've brought a mechanic friend, and I mean a qualified mechanic friend, not some paddy up the road who knows a little bit about cars. Sure, he knows about cars. You let him look at it there. Be grand. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't. Lee Moore says, what about these raffle car companies? I do not endorse any of those raffle cars. They're raffling second-hand cars. I have been asked by multiple ones to endorse anyone. If you see my name on it, please report it to me, because I'll sue them. Because I don't endorse any of that raffling of cars. There's only one winner in a car raffle, and that's a raffle company. Most of these cars are, let's say they're raffling an old used €2,000 car, right? And they put the raffle up, it costs you €1 to enter, €5 to enter, €6. That's €5 from you. But they until the price of the car is matched by the raffle company, they don't actually raffle the car. You could be 6 or 8 months with your money sitting there in their offices before they'll actually raffle that car off. So I don't agree with that. If I'm going to do a car raffle, I'll buy a car and I'll raffle it off here myself. I won't endorse somebody else's raffle thing. Some of them have offered me some fairly serious money as well, which is a real shame to turn it down. But I can't expect you to be raffling or buying cars on raffles that I don't agree with. Anyway, gambling's bad for you. No echo here, sounds good. Sorry. Michael Stabansky, what is your favourite BMW M car? I've had a go in new M's. The M2 competition is one of the best cars you've ever driven there, Michael, is the M2 competition. Absolutely brilliant. It's like driving a shoe with hundreds of horsepower. It's brilliant. M4, no, wasn't gone on that. X3M, no, these X cars don't work as M cars at all. The M2 is absolutely brilliant. The M3 is a real honest-to-God driver's car. And I actually think people who drive the M4 missed out on something entirely by avoiding the M3. The M3 to me is a delicate sledgehammer. You know, it really is. It's going to scare the crap out of you. But that's kind of what you're looking for. You really want a car when you're driving and you want to have an enthusiastic drive. You want a car that you can drive hard, but every once in a while the car whispers over the back of your ear, I'm going to kill you. That's kind of what you want. It's that element of that fear, making a hair stand on the back of your neck, a bit of sweat come out in the back, you know, that kind of stuff. That's what you want from a car. And the M3 delivers that in spades. The M4 is a Grand Tour. It's more of a tour car, very fast, very good. It's responsive enough. But really it lacks that just perfect balance and weight distribution that comes with an M3. M2 is by far the best car, but you just can't get them anymore. They were sold out and they're not going to make a whole lot more of them. But M2 is an absolute hoot of York to drive and wails down the road like nothing else. What if you can't afford to VRT the car you win? That's true as well, yeah. Fergal Griffin says, why, Bob, is it not possible to get a van car in a petrol engine? I'd love to get one, but I don't do sufficient mileage to get a diesel. The problem is the way our tax system is set up. Diesel is, you can claim the VAT back on diesel. So diesel cars were always business cars. So all the diesel you bought for your own car, you could claim the VAT back off it. But because of that, it meant that the markets went immediately to basically 100% diesel in the van range of things, and even in pickup trucks and stuff, it became a diesel market, and that's the way it stayed. So they don't even bother putting in petrol engines in. The only way you're going to get a van out of a petrol engine is to go to something like a Peugeot Rifter, which is a passenger vehicle, and you can get a petrol one in that. Whip out the seats and retax it as a commercial, but very expensive way of getting a commercial on the road. But yeah, diesel it's a problem as well. I mean, even if I wanted to get a company vehicle, I'm self-employed, you can even see my tax returns up there, but if I want to get a company vehicle, I'd have to buy a diesel, because you'd have to be able to claim the VAT back or claim something back off it in some way or another. So the problem is I wouldn't want a diesel. I'd never drive it. Sure, I'd do no mileage. It'd be useless to me sitting there with the next gear down the side or something stupid. Kenneth Fitzpatrick, I keep my self-business on a flight simulator. Oh, you do flight simulator? I used to do flight simulator as well. My computer's broke there beside me. I can't do anything. Anyway, it's ancient. That's a dual core sitting up there as well. I wouldn't even do flight simulator. But yeah, I used to love flight simulator. Microsoft Flight Simulator. All of them. I've had all of them at some point or another. I have a massive box of 1,000 odd games back there and flight simulators in them for sure. I do like that myself. Robert Doyle, have you ever drove the Kia Ceed 2-litre diesel before? I have. Nearly drove it off a cliff once upon a time. Don't tell Kia that. I was on an international launch and I was coming down this mountain, and I was going up the mountain, and I saw a lovely little place I could pull over and take a picture, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll go back down to that. It'd be great. It'd be lovely. So I did a U-turn and went back down to that, but then kind of missed it as I was coming down. Oh, there it is there. I pulled over and the two front wheels went onto the kind of a dusty patch of the ground instead of being tarmac, and the brakes cut in. It was but like it was a cliff edge. It was proper like poo shot out at that point. It was scary stuff. Absolutely scary. But yes, I have drove Kia Ceed 2-litre diesel before. It's lovely, but it's like any other diesel. You know, it's a bit noisy and a bit tickety, but fuel economy is brilliant on the motorway. In bigger engines, anything bigger, petrol, diesel, the bigger the engine, the better the fuel economy on a motorway. Plus the gear ratio in the Kia Ceed 2-litre diesel has 6-speed box, and the ratio is designed for cruising. Nissan Tida has its own account. Heard you were bad mount me, Bob. What did I ever do to you? You existed. That's what you did to me. Your mere existence was enough to upset me greatly. Tida was a car that was not designed for Ireland. It was designed for India, actually, was where it came out first. It was going to be an Indian-only car, and Nissan realised that it didn't have a Sunny or a Primera, or any of those cars were all gone. And went, well, you know what? I have an idea. We should bring over this tin bloody box of yoke with plastic interior and put a crap engine in it and make it as uncomfortable as humanly possible, and then tell everyone it's a great car. It's called a Nissan Tida. Kenneth Fitzpatrick, what do you think of the new Mazda MX-5? That's pretty good. I liked all MX-5s are pretty good, in fairness to them. There hasn't been really a bad one. Robert Doyle, just scroll back up a little bit, hold on a second. Robert Doyle said Nissan Tida is the Chris Harris guy from the Sunday service is a couple of weeks ago. Nissan Tida is Chris Harris. Oh yeah. Oh, I know. We know of when they're turning up. I'm going to create another moderator to keep an eye on these things. But yeah, it's alright. Someone is able to change their name on YouTube. I couldn't even bother to figure out how to do that, so I don't bother doing it. Martio went to a Circuit of Ireland rally event years ago, and the guest speaker was David Vine from the BBC. Ski Sunday, every second work was F or B. Couldn't believe it. Absolutely shocked. Everyone I've ever met from radio or television who do it for a living they swear like pirates off air. It's something you have to keep it inside. I do it here as well. Sitting here, I don't swear in any of my videos, nothing like that. But in real life, all bets are off, baby. Turn the air blue in about 4 seconds flat. It's funny, but most people are like that. It's just because they have to keep it all inside. They think on their feet and they can't do any swearing and cursing, nothing in real life. And that's the way they are. Charles Costa, hello Bob, how's it going, mate? Greetings from you from Finland. I was in beautiful Finland. It was a lovely place, beautiful place to go. A lot of Chinese people in Finland, which I found really interesting. I know that Finland did a very curious thing a few years ago to try and repopulate some parts of Finland. They opened the doors to China and they paid money for people to come from China to come and live in Finland. So there's quite a few Asian people living in Finland. Beautiful country. I was in a place called Rovaniemi, up in the middle of it, kind of dead center, and I drove to the Arctic Circle and we went over to see the Russian border. It was great crack, actually. Ex-Con, new chapter says, why does China and Japan have fast and futuristic looking trains that are rest stops? Because they invested and got it, and they have long countries that are weird, but they invested the money. They literally just invested a crap ton of money into public transport, and yet if you watch enough videos in Japan when people are trying to get on the bloody trains to go home, and they're being pushed in and forced in at home time, and they have, like, the women are treated terribly badly in Japan. Japanese men are very weird. I find them very strange to deal with. They can be really nice, but they've got these very devious ways of going on about women as well. Like, here's an example. This iPhone 7 I bought second hand, and the problem is the second hand phone was ex-Japanese, ex-Asian. So if you listen, you hear that sound? That is the sound of the camera. You can't turn that off, no matter what. There is no way of turning it off. I've contacted Apple. I've asked Apple. No. And the reason? Upskirts. That's why. They wanted to make sure that the sound of the camera stayed on at all times, because men were taking pictures up women's skirts in Japan. Well, in Asia in general, but Japan. So work that one out for yourself. Patrick Curley says, how reliable, Bob, is out of 10 would you give Skoda Superb? Thanks. A car is only reliable as to how well it's been treated. So it's very easy to have one car that is like a nightmare yoke and will go wrong on you every single day, and that could be any brand, any car, right? You hope it won't, but it can do. If you're thinking about second-hand cars, I 70% of what comes into my inbox on a regular basis from all of the social medias is, what do you think of this car? What do you think of the Hayek 35? What do you think of this car? God only knows. Unless I actually inspect the individual car, there's no way of telling what kind of car it's going to be. A Skoda Superb is going to be as reliable as you treat it. But generally speaking, there's not a lot of recalls of Skoda Superb, not a lot of dissatisfied customers. It's the least amount of complaints I would get would be from Skoda in general. You know, people don't really ring me up and go, you're wrong about Skoda's shit. You know, I don't get that much, so it should be fine. Now, McHugh, regarding the petrol caravan, I once saw a 2.5 litre Focus ST on Dundee with back seats taken out and registered as the commercial. Sure, it can't be allowed. Not anymore, but you still, if it was always a commercial, you can, yeah, but you can't do it anymore. There is very strict guidelines over what is a commercial, and every year they swap it out and change it, and they change some kind of a rule around whether it's a commercial or not a commercial, and so it happens every once in a while. Charles Costa, do you think we'll have any car fair shows this year? Not in Ireland, we won't. Don't think so. Just so much to organise. I don't foresee the kids going back to school possibly even before September. Just the way things are running at the moment. We're now in Easter holidays, which should have been a week, which brings us to kind of the end of April, and then we're into May and June. So like you're kind of on top of summer. So why would you get people to go back to school so quick? But the problem there is you don't get kids back to school. What do parents do about going back to work? Like I know parents who put their kids into childcare from during summer holidays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single day, just like their own thing. So it's a difficult place to work it out. But if we all go back into the streets tomorrow, the virus infections will go through the roof because it's still out there. There's 25 cases here in Laois, and it seems some of them were in Portlaoise Hospital, so they're right here in the town with me. So I have to be careful on that. I don't expect I'm going to be too sick if I get it, but it's very hard to get back to work, let alone get back to doing car fairs and shows and all that sort of stuff. Keith Davis, I've watched the channel for a while now. I bought my Mazda 6 Tourer after seeing a review of it. Thanks, been really pleased. It's good, man. That's a good car. Mazda 6 Tourer is a really good car. Mazda 6 always has been. Mazda traditionally are a little firmer to drive than some of the other European brands. They like to go the sporty end of the handling, which is good for most drivers. Best gearboxes in the world for changing is the manual gearbox in any Mazda. Really, really good. Charles Costa, Finland is the Asia hub to Asia. Most European flights connect through in here in China. I went through your airport in the main city in the south half of Finland, and it was packed. It was absolutely pajamas with Chinese people. It was funny. It was like landing in Hong Kong or something. It was just crazy. It was brilliant. Great crack though. Really nice people. Pear Drops. Bob, have you listened to Nicky Grist on Chris Harris's recent podcast? Such is a fascinating piece of radio. Listen to his stories. Anyway, I was wondering to follow any motorsport yourself nowadays. No, I don't. Don't follow any sports at all, actually, really. I'm not that kind of person that does the motorsport, the sport. I prefer to go along and actually drive a car or something, you know, that sort of weird stuff that gets on with. I think Chris Harris has an interesting take on stuff. He's an interesting way of talking to people. He got very lucky to some degree, but also unlucky, because if Top Gear fails, if they have to stop making it and have to stop giving it such gargantuan budgets to make, well, that'll be the end of him as well. I think that's what nearly happened to the lads on Top Gear themselves. I think they'll find it very difficult to move on to other jobs. In fairness, Chris Harris has literally killed off everyone else who was on Top Gear apart from himself. You know, what was that guy that got chosen off the internet? That he was actually pretty good, and now he does something for Auto Express or something. It's him, you know, he just gone. Yeah, good luck. So long. You're no good to me anymore. Stu Harris is still there though, isn't he? Still clinging on to it. So he must have got a better contract than the rest of them, because everyone else got fired off. So eventually, you know, people peak out, and they get to a point where everyone's seen them and done, and they can't reinvent themselves any further. So that will happen to everybody, and that's a tough place to be, because it's very hard to transfer yourself from a car show to any other show. Ask Johnny Smith. He's been on a car show forever, but has very little other things in the toolbox. You know, not able to go off and just kind of present a travel show out of nowhere. It's just not his bag. He just doesn't do that. So it's a difficult place for him to be as well. It's very hard to get on and get moving into something else when it ends, when you can't travel anymore, you can't go here, you can't go there, and you can't make a car show. What can you do? I think I can still present other stuff, so I'm okay with that. But I don't listen to Chris Harris's podcast. No, I prefer something that isn't car related. I don't absorb car stuff all day long. I do something else, anything else at times. Funny Ferrari was watching an older video. Oh, let's just hop forward to me there. We're going to call it a quits now very shortly. Hang on a second. Funny Ferrari. Bob, have you listened? No, I did one. Watching an older video of yours from years ago of outtakes and funny moments, found it hilarious. Would be something you do again if stuff for content. Do you know what? In fairness, I don't actually have a lot of outtakes. Because what I do is, it's the way I shoot them now. It's the way I film it. I kind of film raw nearly, and it's very few out. The only outtakes would be cars driving into shot, or talking about something out the window, or swearing or cursing because a camera fell over in the middle of a shot, or something like that would be the only thing that would come up. The L200 video, actually, that's kind of funny in places because it was pointed out, like, I turned a corner and the camera fell over in the passenger seat. And but the other camera continued to roll, and I was holding the camera in my seat. So there's some funny bits, but very, very little compared to the early stuff. There was tons of it because I didn't know what I was doing, essentially. Robert says, a pal of mine says Japanese loving in the UK, lovely bloke. He's so worried about COVID that he sprays Amazon parcels when they arrive with Scots whiskey. I wouldn't waste my whiskey on an Amazon parcel, but I certainly do have wipes on the foot of the stairs there for when the parcels do turn up. I do wipe the parcels that come in from Amazon or come in from anywhere, and then I wash my hands. And when we open them, we wash the parcel inside that. We wash the parcel inside that as well. I mean, just in case. You never know. You do pick it up off hard surfaces, so we'd be very aware of that, alright, for sure. Marty O says, Irish Times reporting now that virus peak may have passed. Don't believe a word you read about that sort of stuff until it becomes official knowledge. Don't, because the Irish Times, like everybody else, is under major pressure for clicks and to sell newspapers. You've got newspapers left, right and centre that are going out of business. Even the Irish Independent today announcing redundancies. You've the Journal that made a whole heap of people redundant. Joe.ie has done the same thing. They're all dying to be the first to report something. Don't think about for a second of going outside about the virus peak may have passed. Stay where you are. Shelter indoors until officially the HSC and the government come back and say you can do this and this and this. Don't do anything else. There's an awful lot of media people has moved over to work for the HSC recently. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've seen people from various radio stations and newspapers take up positions in the HSC. So there's PR spin happening in the background that we're not aware of. So be very careful, particularly if you've got an underlying condition of any kind. Thomas Clark, I could live with a Cupra Ateca on a day-to-day basis, comfort, economy, etc. Yes, I could live with one of them as well. Lovely little car, actually. A bit thirsty, but goes. It goes when you want it to go. You know, it goes and goes and goes. It's great crack, really good. Enjoyed that car for a start. Marty O says, do you know if any tyre centres are open? I don't think they are open, but I'm sure they have emergency phone numbers that you can get a hold of them because it is an essential service. A bit like the veterinary offices and motor factors, which can be made to open. I believe they can be gotten by phone and make it, you can make things open anyway. Right, this went on an awful lot bleeding longer than I expected it to be honest with you. I was only going to do an hour. But we've been on for 1 hour and 51 minutes already, so it doesn't take long for this to build up, does it? Only reminder I give you today is there's good links underneath there to support the channel if you want to support the channel. Subscribing is the most important part. That's all it really matters, is the subscription stuff. But if you can afford to support the channel some way, then you can send money by PayPal, Patreon, or any of those other systems, or even just fat cash in the middle of the road. Checks can be cashed as well, so we'll all be okay. Any way you can. But it's been absolute joy to sit here talking in my new little den office thing. I'll give you a room tour at some point. There's a bed here beside me. Here's the thing. We want to do exercise. I have a thing for doing chin-ups. Look, chin-ups. It's a chin-up bar for the top of your door. I use it for a while, actually. It's pretty good. You can have that. I'll do a giveaway here someday. Head torches and and old tape decks and things. Be great crack. Anyway, join me again, and I'll do something tomorrow as well. I'll do something tomorrow. We'll do another video, live stream. We'll do some local news or something. I'll pick out some court dates or something out of the local newspaper, and we'll have a laugh about them. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and look after yourselves. Wash your hands, stay indoors, don't believe the news, and get off the news. Stay away from the news. But until the next time, and we'll see you on the far side.